Sobel and Company, and I'd like to welcome you to Sobel Insights. Sobel Insights is a weekly series to provide some brief information on various topics. Our goal is to keep the sessions to 15 minutes. At this time, we're not offering CPE. If you have any ideas for topics or speakers, please feel free to reach out to me. Today's topic is on the Consolidated Appropriations Act. And speaking today is Jamie Greenleaf, who's a lead advisor with One Digital. So Jamie, I had nothing to do one day, so I decided to try to read 2,000 pages of the act to figure out what this is all about. And then I realized, oh, wait, we're going to be speaking. So I'm hoping that you can take this time to tell me what the heck this whole Consolidated Appropriations Act is about, what it's all about. We have less than 15 minutes, though, and I've already started, so it's now 14 something. But we hear about it, and you try and avoid the news. So why should our clients, plan sponsors, sponsors of healthcare plans, why should they care about the Consolidated Appropriations Act, or CAA?
Well, thanks for having me. I'm sure you would be wildly impressed after reading the 2,000 pages of the Consolidated Appropriations Act. But hopefully today we're going to give you just some key points to think about. So as you know, December 27th of 2020, this new legislation, the CAA, was signed into law. And basically, it's now defined the duties of the plan sponsor to be a fiduciary under ERISA. So if you think about the way that you run your retirement program, where you have a committee and a prudent process for how you make your decisions, acting in the best interest of your participants, you now, under the CAA, are required to do the same thing when it comes to your healthcare plan. Now, ERISA has always had an oversight on healthcare plans, but the problem has been we haven't been able to receive the appropriate data and information we need as plan sponsors to actually fulfill our fiduciary duties. And the CAA is changing that. So it is I would say it's the biggest thing since the ACA. It's major.
And the ACA came out, it was during Obama, right? Yeah. And that was so less than X number of years ago. A lot has changed over the past couple of years, and it's putting a lot more requirements on the employers. It's quite amazing how much. I mean, Liz Harper in our office, we deal a lot with employee benefit plans, ERISA reporting requirements, and I don't know if ERISA's budget just got much bigger or something to be able to oversee this.
Yeah.
But we'll find that in the 2,000 pages somewhere, or we'll find it in the federal budget. I'm sure we can find it easy. But is there anything that they should know in particular about the new requirements?
Yeah, so I think that what plan sponsors should realize is that they really break it down into 4 areas that plan sponsors want to focus on. The first one is the most important component, which is the removal of gag clauses with all of their service providers on their healthcare plan. Now, most will say, what the heck is a gag clause? What does
Thank you.
It's very, exactly. So think about your contracts that you have with your service providers. They have pieces that say that there's proprietary information that you can't utilize. It's information around pricing and it's information around quality. These now need to be stripped out of your contracts. Most employers don't even realize that these are within their contracts. That means that they're prohibited from receiving their own data to determine if they're doing what's in the best interest of the participant. So that's the first thing that they should be aware of. The second thing is that they're going to establish new reporting requirements around their RX spend. So there's going to be 50 drugs that they're going to need to report information on. It's going to be about the frequency that they're dispensed to their employee population, the cost of those, so the most costly. So we're seeing a lot of RX providers move from generic to specialty to increase their cost. So all of this now is going to be needed to be reported on the 5500 form or some other type of form. They haven't really described what that's going to be, but you're going to need to get a lot more information around your RX spend.
I imagine in part, the opioid issue was one of the big problems that created this. And, the pricing that smug individual that was in before Congress or in the court, that when he was overcharging people, created this too.
Well, that and RX is becoming over 30% of the average employer's medical spend and rising.
Wow.
So the CAA is bringing transparency into the healthcare space. And so they want to start to follow drugs and track drugs to determine, what's going on behind the scenes.
Interesting.
The next piece is that they're going to require employers to understand both direct and indirect compensation of all of their service providers. So that's brokers that are receiving direct compensation and perhaps indirect compensation from carriers because they've kept a plan with a carrier for a specific period of time. TPAs also may be receiving direct and indirect compensation. For example, on drugs, there are rebates. Most employers are not familiar with where their rebates go. Sometimes those rebates go to your third-party administrator and they're used to reduce their fees, but most employers don't understand that. So now on your 5500 form, not only are you going to see direct compensation, you now need to understand that indirect compensation has to be reported on your 5500 form. And last but not least, in 2008, there was the Mental Health Parity and Addiction Equity Act, excuse me, I had to think what it was. And what the CAA has done is stepped this up in the Consolidated Appropriations Act, where it's more enforceable. And we actually saw this week, there was an article that came out that United Health paid over $14.3 million in a settlement because of these kind of games that they were playing. So now as an employer, every year you're going to have to attest that you've removed your gag clause, that you're reporting on your top 50 drugs, that you understand your direct and indirect compensation, and determine if that's reasonable for the services you're receiving, and that you've done a parity in substance abuse and mental health benefits.
That's interesting because you said 2008. And it's 2021, and it's a significant topic now about mental health with what's going on. And I imagine I don't think that the Congress had it in mind when they brought this out, but it's quite interesting how it's all rolling in together now and the reporting. So what should employers start doing now, or plan sponsors start doing now? What do you recommend?
So I'd like to say that's where my 30 plus years of fiduciary experience comes in. But if you're an employer and you haven't established a health plan committee, just like you have a retirement plan committee, and you haven't established a prudent process for how you're making your decisions, then you need to actually go out and hire somebody to oversee that process for you. Because most employers have a day job. And that's why a lot of them have outsourced the fiduciary liabilities and responsibilities of their retirement plan to consultants to kind of oversee that process. They're involved in it, but there's a kind of somebody that's overseeing the process. It's the same when it comes to the healthcare system. The more they peel back the onion on their healthcare plan, the more they're going to find that there are opportunities for them to reduce costs and enhance benefits for their employees. And the more transparency that comes to their discussion, the better off they're going to be from a prudent process standpoint. And that's exactly what you need to bring to this process.
Well, it's unfortunate that you said that, because I didn't know that my mother had called you and told you to say this, okay? Because throughout my whole life, my mother would always say, pay the man, pay the man. And what she meant was, don't try and do it yourself when you can't do it.
Yeah.
You're not qualified to do it. You don't have the time to do it. And I'm talking when I was younger, and I've got 7 stitches in my thumb, changing my oil in my car. And she's like, okay, would it cost you $25? Now you have 7 stitches in your thumb, pay the man, okay? It's easier
Yeah.
for you. And my mother, I really thought how wise she was, but don't tell her I'm saying this, okay?
We won't send her this podcast.
No, no.
I would just tell plan sponsors, if you think about when retirement plans 20 years ago, the 408(b)(2) regulations came out, which added the ability for transparency around fees and costs. This is the same thing in the healthcare space. And if you think about it, back then, retirement plans, the average mutual fund was running 150 basis points to 200 basis points. And now today we can get funds for less than 5 basis points. This whole transparency is not great for everybody, but it's really good for us as the end user. Now employers just need to put that process in place to get to that bottom line.
Yeah, and in the end, I mean, I think what everybody has to realize is, I notice this particularly with the risk and the 401k plans and DOL, these acts and these actions are here to protect the employee, and rightfully so. And so, don't try and shortcut these things. Employers have fiduciary responsibilities, and you don't want to run afoul and try and shortcut these things. Now, what will happen is, I appreciate it because we're a trusted advisor. We'll get the call a lot of times and they'll say, but what do you think I should do? And I will tell people here, and you please give me a call, but I will refer you over to somebody like Jamie, because while we have some information, I love these dialogues I have because I learned so much, just like today, but you're the professional in this area. They need to be talking with the professional. So call the woman. Okay, all right. I didn't realize how inappropriate my comment was just before, but call the person, however you want to say it. So I want to thank you very much for this information. I will tell you, really, you saved me reading of 2,000 pages because I think that's all that's in there. But no, there's a lot of information in there, and I look forward to speaking with you again in the future and getting more information, especially on the size of the companies and everything else. So thank you very much for today, though.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Everybody, thank you very much for tuning in.